Welcome to another episode of the Two Shots Podcast. And I got to say, this is going to be a very exciting episode of the Two Shots Podcast. We're going to be joined by the one and only Noah Magaro-George of the Air Alamo. And you're out there with our other friend too, Josh Paredes. So I know that you guys at the Line Podcast, you and Ty, Nick, Mac, everybody got together and you were doing the Twitter Spaces, and the reactions were hilarious, man. But the day after, Spurs get the number one pick overall in the NBA draft lottery. How are you feeling?
I still can't believe that this is real. I was telling you before we started recording a little bit that I kind of went into the night just going, don't have any expectations. You won't be let down. And then it happened. And I couldn't believe it because we talked a little bit about it too. I was a baby for Tim Duncan, them winning the lottery. So I don't have a reference for how winning the lottery felt. And just seeing the Spurs win the lottery after losing 60 games, it's just a different level of joy. It was just, it's hard to describe. It's even hard to put it into words, but it was fantastic just having that moment and being able to share it with fans and friends. And It was incredible.
Yeah, I was working. So I was like, you know what? I work in the evenings, right? So I said, I want to time it to where I'm going to take my lunch break at that 7:00 hour, so I can go ahead and watch the NBA draft lottery happening, as it's going on live. So I took my lunch, I was watching, and I was like, all right, 10, all right, wasn't the Spurs. Number 6, wasn't the Spurs. 5, has to be the Spurs at 5. No. Then they're like, okay, we're going to come back in the top 4, and they have the Spurs in the top 4. I was like, heart started beating a little faster. I'm like, they're going to get 4, they got to get 4. Nope, number 4 came around. Number 3 came around. I was like, oh my God, this is not happening. And number 2, I was like, no, it's going to be them. So I was like, oh my, man, this is like, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain the feeling. It's just no words, it's like, this is not happening. That's what I kept thinking. It's like, it's happening, but your mind's telling you this was such a long shot for him. It shouldn't be this way. It shouldn't happen for them, but just so happy and excited that it finally did. And that the last 4 years of them not being in the playoffs, hopefully that is going to be starting to come to an end here. But more importantly, the inner bickering that's been going on for the last 4 years, because we kind of talk about it, going through a rebuild is not fun, and all the inner bickering that we've had on Spurs Twitter, fans going after fans, people calling each other out and calling each other a sheep, and you all follow the Spurs blindly and all that nonsense when they should have just been enjoying watching the growth of these younger players and watching the moves that the team has been making. It kind of put a little damper on things. But now with them getting the overall number 1 pick, hopefully all that will be something of the past. We're going to be going on to happier days. Everything is going to change. And you had a different aura of the Spurs Twitter space, now that the Spurs have picked that number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft lottery. I mean, what do you think? What is your expectations moving forward? Do you think the inner bickering is going to stop now?
Not really, because I think you see it with even like the good teams, even when the Spurs were good. And I mean, that's been a little while now, so we can use other teams as an example. But there's other teams now that are like, oh, should the Mavericks have gone all in for Kyrie? Oh, you have to go all in for Kyrie. You have to try to win that championship. And then there's the other group of fans who are like, no, I wouldn't touch Kyrie. And it's a mistake that they went after Kyrie and they had to give up all these assets. And so no matter where your team is, I think there's always going to be people who disagree with each other. It may not be as maybe like violent and disrespectful and like noticeable now that they have something to be happy about in Wemby, but rest assured there are going to be fans who are going to say, oh, well, Wemby wants a ring right now, so you better go, load up and try to win a championship year 1. And then there's going to be people who, I kind of am in this camp who, take it slow. Let it happen organically. He's 19 years old. You have a bunch of other teenagers and 20-year-olds on your roster. You don't have to expedite your timeline for anything. You have the luxury of taking it slow. You have a ton of picks. You have a ton of money. You have a ton of assets. And people are going to argue over that. I'm sure they are. So do I think it's going to end anytime soon? Not really.
I think it'll get a little better. I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
Hopeful it'll get a little bit better. Now everybody has something to be united about, and no, inner bickering can be happening now because they finally have the number 1 pick. The only thing that would really upset the fans if the Spurs come draft day don't pick Victor Wembanyama at number 1. but
And that would never happen. Yeah.
yeah, that's not going to happen because you saw the reaction from Peter Holt's son that was up there representing the Spurs, and you knew exactly what he was thinking. And the thing is that the league even tells the teams, the representatives and the teams themselves before they even go and represent the teams up there on the stage. Don't disclose who you want to go ahead and draft. Keep all that a
Yeah.
secret. Don't put out, hey, this is my wish list of, none of that stuff. They want everything to be a surprise. I get that, but I mean, come on. Everybody knows. I mean, you've already seen the murals up. You're the one mural up here in San Antonio, and even the news was out there, and the fans were at the mural, and you saw the people honking downtown. And
Yep.
this is exciting times. I was saying, especially for somebody your age, with you and Mac, Nick, and Ty, Josh Paredes, all you guys, this is something that's exciting for you all to kind of see firsthand because me being the older guy of the bunch here, I've already been through all this, and again, going through rebuilds is no fun, but when the journey's starting like it is now, this is going to be something very special for you guys, and I'm happy for y'all in that regards, so I mean, we're going to talk about Victor now, but Victor Wembanyama here, he's had quite the Tuesday. We're recording this
Yeah.
on Wednesday. He had quite the Tuesday. He helped his team, go ahead and get a win here before he even got ready for the NBA draft lottery. He scored 14 of his team's 22 points in the fourth quarter, team high 22 points in the fourth quarter, and they went ahead and got the victory over his victory for Metropolitan, or the Metropolitans or whatever they call it.
Yeah, Metropolitans 92. Yeah, they beat the Paris Basket in the regular season finale. Yeah, a good game.
Yeah, 93 to 85, so it's not bad at all, and he finished the regular season and he averaged 22 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 blocks per game, um, which led the league. And he's also probably going to go ahead and he's going to before the game he received the trophy for being the league's top shot blocker, and he's also expected to get more hardware and claim that coveted MVP of the league as well. So good for him. I mean, he's playing at a high level there. He's helping his team win. He's getting accolades to show how prolific a scorer, and not only that, but how great he is on the defensive end as well. So he's really making an impact on his team, and you're hoping that that's going to translate over to the NBA level. I know there's going to be some time for him to adjust, but I'm going to tell you one thing for sure: that NBA Summer League is going to be something to see this year. You plan on going?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. No, I'm definitely going out to NBA Summer League. The second that those credential applications open up, I'm applying. I got approved last year. I've been a couple of times, so I'm hoping they say, "All right, yeah, we'll let you back again," because like you said, Wembanyama is this once in a lifetime generational super talent that like everybody who covers basketball is going to want to be there. Everybody is going to want to talk to him. Everyone is going to want to apply for applications for those credentials. So you never know how many they're going to give out. But rest assured, it's going to be a packed house for Wembanyama.
No doubt, man. And this is the one thing that Spurs fans I think got really excited about is I believe it was Bleacher Report, one of those outlets, or SB Nation. Somebody had put out a graphic and they're showing kind of what the expectation might be for the starting five. So you have Victor Wembanyama, Jeremy Sohan, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Trey Jones. I mean, that starting five right there could be pretty nasty, man. With Victor Wembanyama there. So I think it's going to be great to see that the pressure isn't going to be so, let's say, one-sided now with having those expectations with Keldon having to do everything, or looking to see what Jeremy's going to do, and not only that, but you're looking at Devin Vassell as well. I mean, now with Victor, where he should be the primary focal point from not only your defensive anchor but also your offense is going to flow through him. It should open the game a little bit more now for one Keldon and Trey and Devin, and even Jeremy Sohan. It's going to give them more flexibility to really be able to do what their intended, let's say, you know, job is out there on the court. For one, Jeremy Sohan can focus more on the defensive point. He doesn't have to be more of the focus, or the expectation is you have to score so much. You
Yeah.
know, that wasn't his strong suit for him. But if you get a couple of points here and there out of the kid, that's great. But his main point is going out there and being a prolific defender. So I'm interested to see what the trajectory would be of the team come next season, and how's that going to affect them not only from an offensive perspective, but also their defensive, the defensive perspective as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, adding someone like Victor Wembanyama on the defensive end, I mean, obviously people love watching the highlights of him scoring, those one-legged fadeaways, the step backs from three, he misses, he puts it back on a dunk, the alley-oops, they love all that stuff. But I think what makes him really special is the defensive end. He's 7'5", 8-foot wingspan, great lateral mobility, really deft feet. Right, he's got super high basketball IQ. His ground coverage is insane. He's coming up with weak side, rotations to come over and protect the rim. He's a guy who, if you try to challenge him at the rim, you try to dunk on him, he's going to meet you. He's not afraid. He blocks a ton of jump shots from three. He blocks a ton of jump shots when guys try to ISO him one-on-one in the mid-range. Like, he's just so good at erasing mistakes and also containing pretty much every position on the court that he makes everyone's job easier. So like Sohan's job is going to be easier. Trey Jones' job is going to be easier. And I think if you want to keep Keldon in the starting lineup, who, arguably one of the worst defenders at his position in the NBA, doesn't really matter that much because you're going to be surrounding him with really solid defenders and Victor Wembanyama. Like, you're not going to have to worry too much about Keldon. So he just changes everything on the defensive end of the court. So I'm excited for that. I'm really, really excited for that.
One of the things I was kind of thinking about, you're looking at that, it's just a theoretical thing, in theory, what's going to happen with the starting five with that graphic, and Spurs fans have kind of been, went to Twitter and kind of said the same thing. Hey, that starting five could be nasty. What if Coach Pop inserts Wemby as a forward and has Zach Collins, kind of play the center position? If they want to go ahead and get a little bit more length and, have somebody help presence there in the paint, in the interior, that could be a possibility as well. Of course, you have injuries that could happen as well. We hope that doesn't happen, but I'm just saying you have some flexibility there with the starting five. And even if Zach, let's say, comes off the bench, that's still not a bad thing. You're going to have a great second unit. So it's going to give the team much needed balance, and I went and saw that Spurs fans were also saying now with all the cap space, the team can go out there and start really getting pieces out there to build around this kid. I think you have some good pieces here. There's no need to go out and just spend or overspend on, veteran players to surround the kid. I mean, let's see how some of the talent you have right now is going to go ahead and flourish and develop. I don't think there's any rush to do that. You do have some veteran players here already. So I think that just the Spurs can go ahead and just sit back and really at this point see what they can do with the pieces that they have. Again, there's no need to panic and go out there and be desperate. Thoughts on that? With Zach Collins, maybe being inserted in the starting five to play alongside Wemby. And what do you think about the offseason and the cap space that the Spurs have with that flexibility?
Yeah, I love the idea of having Zach Collins play at the center, maybe move Sohan or even Keldon to the bench. I don't know. But I like the idea of that because one of the things that Wemby had mentioned, and at least from his camp, he doesn't really want to play center. He doesn't really want to be banging down low with guys like Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic or Jonas Valanciunas or, big bodies like Giannis. Like, that's not really what he wants to do. And ideally, he's a guy who can kind of roam around the court and erase mistakes and cover a lot of ground. And, he's not he's definitely not a guy like Shaq who's, built like a diesel truck, right? He's not that. And that's not his role. That shouldn't be his role. And I think if you have Zach Collins in there to man the post and let Wemby roam a little bit, that's probably the best use of him from year one. And I also think it takes some pressure off of him on the offensive end as well, because as much as we make of him being, this, generational prospect who can dribble, he can shoot, he can do this and this and that. He didn't really shoot that well from three. Like, he shot 28% from three this season. That's not a good percentage. Now, the shot is really fluid. It looks really smooth, but he's just not consistent. And he's best when he has time right now. And I think if you can have someone who legitimately does space the floor like Zach Collins out there, it really helps for the spacing as opposed to having, Keldon, who kind of struggled this year, and Trey, who struggled for his career, and Jeremy Sohan, who's a non-shooter. like I think that sort of helps you on both ends of the court. As for the cap space, they're going to have around, I believe Paul Garcia was projecting about $30 million in cap space this offseason. And if you want to spend some of that, great, because you're going to have to, or you'll end up doing what happened this year where you spread that unused cap space because you didn't reach the ceiling to the players as like a bonus of sorts. I think you can chase a few guys, but like you said, I just don't think there's any need to rush the rebuild. And honestly, the best part of a rebuild is when you land that franchise player and you have no expectations year one. The expectation is, let's see what this guy can do. He's special. We want to see some flashes of that unique talent. And I think that's the most fun part you can have. Like I look at the Oklahoma City Thunder fans, and they loved having Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Josh Giddey and Jalen Williams out there. And there were no expectations, right? They didn't think, oh, we're making the playoffs. They thought we're going to be in the lottery again. And they made the play-in. They nearly made the playoffs, and they had the time of their lives. And I think Spurs fans should be happy with whatever happens next season because it's year one. It's year one of Wemby. Just enjoy the ride.
Yeah, enjoy the ride for what it is, but also looking at the Spurs depth chart, and looking to see what they have again. We talked about the starters and Trey Jones, Devin Vassell, you have Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, and then, of course, what are you going to do with Wemby? Are you going to put him in the forward position and then switch out, So interesting there. But in the second unit, you have Devontae Graham, Malachi Branham, Doug McDermott, KBD, Keita Bates-Diop, Charles Bassey, So you got some flexibility there. And that's not even going into the third. In the third, you kind of got, again, Malachi Branham that you could put in there, Romeo Langford, Dominic Barlow, Mamu. Mamu's always good to come out, high energy player, give you some quality minutes, 10, 14 minutes a game. I mean, and the kid can shoot. He could shoot a three. So he quickly became a fan favorite in his debut last season. So I think the Spurs have a really balanced squad here. It's going to be interesting to see the dynamic moving forward into the next season and see how all these pieces kind of fit together and what they can do as far as maybe winning a couple more games. Am I expecting them to, change the trajectory of the team and then win just 50 games, next season, much like they did with the David Robinson, when David Robinson came and played with the Spurs in his first season? I don't think so, but I think they're going to win a couple more games and might be flirting with a play-in, and that would be exciting because, again, that's exactly what you want. You get a team that's going to come in and change the dynamic immediately, have an impact on this on the team and what they can do. And not only that, Noah, but here's the other exciting thing. Spurs fans have always been upset. Spurs have not been a team that you really want to put on national TV over the course of the last 4 years. Well, how come they're not getting any love? They're not on the national, the stage per se on ESPN and all that. Well, I think that's going to change this year. How many
Absolutely.
do you think the Spurs are going to have nationally televised games? And do you think we're going to actually see them play during the coveted Christmas Day?
I think they will play on Christmas Day. I just don't think that there's any way you can keep Wembanyama off TV on those like major, holiday games. Like they have games on, I think they have Easter, Valentine's Day, they have a Christmas, Thanksgiving. Like I think they'll be on all those major games, especially the Christmas one. And I'm thinking just based on what we saw with guys like Zion and Paolo and even John Morant, who was the second pick a few years ago, like all those teams got about 10 to 20 national games. I would not be surprised if Victor Wembanyama brings the Spurs about 20 by himself because he's one of those guys like LeBron James, or if we want to go to another sport, like Bryce Harper, who they were phenoms from the moment they were 15, 16. They're the chosen ones. They're the next big thing. Like that's him. Like no disrespect to Zion or Paolo or Chet. Those guys are great, but Wembanyama, he's called generational for a reason. We didn't hear anybody else say once in a lifetime or generational with those other guys. This guy is truly special, and I think it'll be nice to have games on TNT, ABC, ESPN. Like it'll just be really nice because they were almost never on TV. And granted, they weren't good, but now they have some draw. They have a lot of draw, and his name is Victor Wembanyama. So super excited for that.
Yeah. Spurs got some star power now in Victor Wembanyama. I know that things are going to change, especially at the AT&T Center with the media and whatnot. There's going to be a lot
Yeah.
of requests now. It's going to get really packed. There were a lot of empty seats last year. If you looked over
Yeah.
at the media area, hardly but anybody went. It was kind of empty. Just you had your regulars, your old faithfuls there, but you look over to the media area and it was pretty scarce. I don't think that's going to
Yeah.
happen this upcoming season. But the flip side to the Spurs landing that number one pick, and the other discussion here that we've had with not with other guests in general on the show, yourself as well, but Spurs fans on Twitter and all the social media platforms is nobody wants to come to play with the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs are not an attractive landing spot for free agents. Well, I think that's about to change depending on how well this team does next season. There's going to be some maybe interest where there wasn't maybe interest before in, free agency over the summer. And that's not a bad thing. Before San Antonio was not looked upon as a destination. But now, you have the Spurs, possibly getting the number one pick in Victor Wembanyama, which I mean, all expectations are he's going to be a San Antonio Spur. Let's be honest. I think that's going to change the way that a lot of these free agents look at the San Antonio Spurs, especially with hey, some players who maybe wanted to play with Coach Pop and be on the squad here, and say, hey, they've admired Coach Pop for quite some time. Now that the Spurs got that number one pick, and you still have Coach Pop coaching the team, maybe now might be the time to come on over to San Antonio. And the thing is, if some of these other coveted free agents want to go ahead and take a chance and see what, they can do here with San Antonio and them having, Victor Wembanyama, they might be willing to forego a little bit less of a paycheck, to go ahead and maybe win something here with San Antonio. As Victor said, his expectation is he wants to go ahead and win a ring as soon as possible. He doesn't
Yep.
want to be waiting around, and I like that out of the kid. I like that, a lot. You want to hear something like that. You don't want to hear, well, maybe we can do it in a couple of years. No, he wants to have an immediate impact, and you like that enthusiasm out of this kid, But what do you think about San Antonio now being an attractive destination for free agents this summer?
Yeah, it'll certainly be interesting because, I love Timmy, love David Robinson. They were both, Hall of Fame players. They helped the Spurs win championships, but I don't think they were, as entertaining or had such a loud personality like Wembanyama does, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that people were dying to get to San Antonio to play with Timmy. There were a few guys, right? You had guys like, Bruce Bowen and Brent Barry and Michael Finley who like understood the importance of, trying to win a championship, and they were at the tail end of their career. But I think with Wembanyama, there are going to be a lot of guys who go, we've never seen someone like this before. This dude is fun. This dude is special. The Spurs have a good young core. They've got money to spend. I might want to head over there. So I think things could change a lot. And just as a quick little side note here, Trey Jones is up for a new contract. I don't think it'll be that expensive. And I think with Devin Vassell, he's a guy who was averaging like 20 points per game last season until that, unfortunate nagging knee, injury really took him out. And, hate to see injuries, but that took away a lot of leverage for this upcoming extension. And with the way that the CBA works now, the Spurs will be able to sign him to a 5-year extension. And I'm thinking that number is not going to be in the 20 millions anymore. Like for a guy whose numbers kind of went down at the end of the year, missed a lot of games, like the Spurs could have even more financial flexibility. And they'll have a lot of young guys on their roster who are already entering their prime. So I'm excited to see kind of how free agents respond to that, because as you mentioned, guys could really maybe want to head here. And that's not really something we've seen.
Yeah, that's not something we've seen in the past, So again, it's another thing to get excited about. And I'm going to go ahead and share too some of the reactions that we've had here on social media, because it's been quite the ride, because again, if you know, what was going on with the Spurs fans here last year, there was something always going on here. But here's some of the exciting things that, we've seen. Everything's been positive. Spurs fans have a different swagger about them, you know. Um, it's just been fun to see, everybody putting up either reactions or sharing the video of the Spurs getting that number one pick. Look, there's our boy Mac. Everyone lend us your joy. There's
Also,
Ty.
it's Ty's birthday today. So
Yeah, I
shout
was
out to
gonna
Ty.
say.
Happy birthday, Ty.
Yeah, happy birthday to Ty. I'll go ahead and DM him later and wish him happy birthday. But look, it's different now. This is the way things used to be. Spurs fans getting excited, posting messages of positivity,
Yeah,
instead of
different energy, a
fighting.
good energy for the first
Yeah.
time in a long time. You absolutely love to see that because, Joe, you are absolutely right. Last season was, for as much as we tried to make it positive with, this guy's developing and this guy's showing flashes, it was hard.
It's
Watching
tough.
60 games losses, and Joe, they set the NBA record for most losses by 35 plus points. The previous record was 6. They had 9 this past
Yeah.
season. I mean, it was tough. Like, there's no way to, other way to say that. It was really hard. So I hate to say, oh, the Spurs deserved it and their fans deserved it. They do. We did. We went through that. Like we deserve that. Every single person who was involved with the organization, from media to fans to
Yeah.
the
It was
players,
tough.
we earned this. We the
Yeah.
basketball gods repaid us for our patience.
Yeah, definitely they did, And it doesn't usually happen that way. If you tank, you don't get rewarded, and let's be honest, the Spurs were tanking, but they were doing it with grace because of Coach Pop. He's not about that, but I don't think they were trying to throw games, but I mean, there was some times, especially in the later part of the season where, oh, let's just go ahead and sit this kid. I'm like, okay,
They
they
babied
were
injuries. Yeah, they
baby
babied injuries
injury.
a little bit, but you
Yeah.
know what? Why wouldn't you? You've got a bunch of good young assets, so you don't want to risk their future and also compromise your lottery odds. Like, you might
Yeah.
as well do what you can to just be safe and help yourself with the ping pong balls, and it worked out, right?
Yeah, they did. And you also want to see what you got in these young guys. Let's see what they can offer the team by getting some playing time at the end of the season. When you're going to go ahead and rest your starters again, there's no reason to be putting them in there because they're really not playing for much, you know. And you just giving them rest and letting these young guys go out there and ball out. And that's exactly what happened. And it was fun to see some of the other younger players that didn't get much playing time during the regular season finish off on a high, And the other thing I was going to get to right here as we start bringing things to a close, DeJounte Murray, and I see you wearing the shirt that says 15 years. He's very
I wonder what
confident.
that's a reference to, huh?
Yeah, 15 years. Very confident when he left. Oh, this team, talking. And look, man, this is his truth. I get that, but I mean, to continuously come out and keep on going out on podcast and saying things about the team, but oh, I love them. I'm like, okay, if you love the team, why are you always bashing them so bad? And then you see what happened with his season over with the Hawks, and then you're seeing what's going to go on with Trae Young and a lot of turmoil going on over there. And over here with San Antonio Spurs, the infamous quote was, "Oh, it's going to take them 15 years, to go ahead and get back, to being, I guess, even mentioned or even, back to the team they once were." Well, it looks like that trajectory isn't going to be 15 years. It's going to be a lot sooner. And,
Yeah.
do I feel bad for DeJounte? Not really, because that's what he wanted. He made it clear, you don't got to trade me, but I ain't coming back. So they had to do what they had to do. So, sometimes you think the grass is greener on the other side and you find out you should have stayed home. So can you imagine what the lineup would have been, though, if the Spurs would have kept DeJounte, or he would have stayed here, and then they get that number 1 pick with Victor Wembanyama, you know?
Yeah, I also think of it like, if DeJounte was here, you would have been too good to get the number 1 pick, probably. And also, just with the way, and I mean, we talked about it like 2 seasons ago because it's been a little bit now since he's been on the team, but he was a guy who was number 4 in the NBA in touches per game. He was touching the ball 100
Yeah.
times per game. But would we have seen Devin Vassell, take a leap, or Keldon Johnson take a leap, or a lot of these other young guys have an opportunity to touch the ball? Probably not. So, as much as I loved while he was here, like everything that he did for the Spurs and the community, and becoming an all-star from being a guy who was kind of overlooked, like, he should be proud of his accomplishments. But the Spurs had the foresight to know, look, we got to move off of him, and we're going to rebuild, and hopefully we'll be better for it. And they are. So, I don't feel sorry for DeJounte, but I do think he needs to just maybe grow up just a little bit, because he's close. He's basically my age, and he's still hunting on social media for his name. And I get it; it's tough. You're under a lot of scrutiny, but I wish him well. I wish him well, but I also know that the Spurs are in a good position now.
Yeah, they're in a good position. They're better than they were a season ago. So that's a good thing. And they kind of moved off some of the players that they needed to move off of. To give them an opportunity to go to other teams and hopefully go deeper into the playoffs or even get into the playoffs. We even seen some of that happen this in the playoffs this season. You look to see what's going on with Derek White and how Derek White was battling against DeJounte Murray, two former teammates, and then you see what's going on with Lonnie Walker there, and he had his little time to shine there during the Golden State series, where he came up and he just exploded in that fourth quarter, and then we've seen Steph Curry signing his jersey and he put it out on social media. And they're still playing, you still have, the Denver Nuggets and the Lakers playing in the NBA playoffs right now in the Western Conference Finals. One of those teams is going to wind up going to the NBA Finals. And I'm pretty sure it's going to wind up being the Nuggets, But if it was the Lakers, I wouldn't be mad, hey, good for Lonnie, But again, Lonnie's one of these guys that, is not going to be called upon to score like, tons of points when he has an explosion, in the fourth quarter where he goes off. I mean, he goes off and he's looking like the savior of the team. And that's what happens, when you have teammates, and you have players that need to step up on one given night because one of your star players isn't really having a good shooting night, and that's what happened with Lonnie, so good for him, and then you see what's going on now with the coaches with winning records, man. It's tough to be a coach in the NBA this season.
Bud is gone. Monty Williams is gone. Doc Rivers is gone. Yeah. And you know what? The Spurs could really decide, hey, let's bring Bud home. Let's bring Monty Williams home. There's a lot of guys who they could technically, even Thiago Splitter, they could bring him home as well. So I don't know. But you're right, a lot of winning coaches out the door.
There's a plethora of coaches out there right now. I mean, honestly, if you're a Spurs fan, do you really want Doc Rivers coaching your team? Probably not,
No, I'm okay to leave him on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Sorry, Doc.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he'll find a home somewhere else, but it's just not going to be here in San Antonio. But some of the other coaches, I think the Spurs are going to be eyeing and looking who's going to be a successor for one Coach Popovich because, I don't want him to retire. I don't think anybody ever wants him to retire, but, you got to kind of think about that in the back of your mind here. I mean, what a fitting end would it be to finally for Coach Pop to get this team at the cusp of taking that next leap and then, finally saying, all right, it's my time. These kids are in good hands now. I did my thing here as being the father figure of the team and setting them up for success and then handing the reins over to somebody else. That would be a very classy move. And, he's going to say it without much fanfare. He's not going to announce this is my last season. He's just going to be like, I ain't coming back. I don't think he'll go to social media. He's not going to want the Spurs to put anything out there, but they will, He's going to be like, don't tell nobody I'm gone. Just, when they go to training camp and you roll out somebody new on the court, that's when they'll know, So I'm just going to be thankful and I'm going to watch Coach Pop this season, because again, you just never know which one's going to be his last, but go out there, support the team, have fun with it, for people that are Noah's age or even younger. This is an exciting time for you guys. This is what you live for. This is your era now, and you're going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting for you guys to watch this team grow and then finally be able to push on through to bigger and better things. And hopefully, probably within the next, I'd say 5 years, 6 years, maybe the Spurs will be one of these teams that are talked about as being a championship contender. Who knows, but the sooner the better. Because, I like to see me some San Antonio Spurs during Fiesta. It goes hand in hand. And I miss seeing that, being out at Oyster Bay, being at the parade, or even at any Fiesta event and seeing all those Spurs flags, seeing the Spurs gear, seeing the fans that are excited. There's just a different vibe here in the city when the Spurs are winning. Everything just seems like it's back to normal. This is the way things should be. The Spurs should be winning. They should be in the conversations. Spurs fans should be sporting their gear, not, I don't want to wear it because they're not winning. Yeah, just
no plastic bags or paper bags over your head at the game. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to see the bootleg tees again, down Drive, down Marbach Road.
Obi-Wan Ginobili during the playoffs, a million of those shirts on the corners of every street. Yeah, I remember. You take it for granted, but I'm excited for it too.
Tent cities, you see them lined up all up and down Marbach, all up and down Military Drive. that's where everybody used to get their merch back before you could buy it online. You would just go down this, to those little sections right there, and you could get anything from flags to shirts, you name it, man. They had it there, and then I'm looking forward to seeing that resurgence. It's going to make me happy to say, oh, these are the way things used to be. So I'm also going to be. It's going to be exciting for me, Noah, because I was talking with my ticket rep, even in the summertime, last summer, and even, during the regular season. I was on the fence about getting season tickets. I'm finally going to pull the trigger on that.
I would too.
I texted him last night, and I said, "Hey, Danny, we gotta have a talk today, And he's like, "Yeah, you just got to put down, your down payment. I think it's like $100 for, like, if you want 2 tickets, it's $200. And then the exciting part for me is I get to go on Saturday with everybody else, and then you get to go and pick out your seats. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm not going to be there. I'm not getting the package for the entire season. Full disclosure here, I'm only going to be able to do it on the weekends, but it's like 10 or something like that games that you get to, enjoy. But, that's probably all I can do right now because I'm working so much during the week. I don't have time, and I'm working evenings. So there's no time that I'm going to have to go to the
That's
game,
tough.
So even on Friday games, I'm probably going to wind up giving those tickets away to some of my family members. But Saturday games, Sunday games, I'll be up for that. There are going to be some Friday games that I can go to. I'll have some giveaways, of course, here and there, But it's going to be fun, man. Finally being able to say that I'm a Spurs season ticket holder, year one. Wow. Full circle, Noah.
100%. I cannot believe that they got so lucky. And Joe, I don't know if you saw, but Forbes said the franchise that wins Wembanyama will add $500 million in value to their team. It's the Spurs. It's the Spurs. Like, there's just
overnight, yeah.
There's just nothing that could have gone better than how it went last night. I still don't know if this is real. I still have to pinch myself and go, wait, was I dreaming? Did this actually happen? Because it just feels surreal. I cannot believe it, but I'm so happy it happened.
Yeah, it's exciting times, man. And, I'm going to give everybody a little hint of what I'm working on here, because I got some things that I'm working on for the summertime here. And I purchased a domain, and I was telling you guys about the domain that I purchased last season. And I was always wondering, what should I do with it? What should I do with it? Well, I'll tell you afterwards what I'm going to wind up doing with it. But the domain that I did purchase is spurstwitter.com. So keep an eye out for that. There's nothing that's been done as far as like the website. It's still a work in progress. And I'm like, am I going to make it a social media site? I'm like, no, we already got social media. So it was kind of in flux, but I have a clear direction of what's going to happen. It's going to be exciting for the Spurs fans moving forward. So I'm looking to finally unveil what I'm going to wind up doing here, probably after Summer League and whatnot. But it's going to be something special. Let's put it like that. But as we bring the show to a close now, Noah, you want to let the fans know about anything that you got that you're working on over there at Air Alamo, or even with Josh,
Yeah, sure. First off, thank you so much for bringing me on. It's been a little bit since we've talked about the Spurs, so always enjoy this. Have a blast talking Spurs with you. But you can find me on Twitter at @n_Magaro, Magaro. I'm probably going to be starting up that YouTube channel again, doing some film breakdowns, Wembanyama, some of the other guys on the roster. So you can find me by my name, No Magaro-George there. And then you can also find my writing at Air Alamo. So check that out. And we're going to be starting the podcast up again, the Alamo City Limits. So we just got the rights from SB Nation. They have transferred it to Fansided. So we'll get that started up here pretty soon. We'll be talking about your Spurs again, and hopefully we'll have a lot of listeners because there is a lot to be excited about. But again, thank you so much, Joe. Really appreciate you bringing me on.
Yeah, and now Spurscast is part of Air Alamo as well. So it'd be exciting to get the guys together now, since we're kind of co-workers, because I jump out on Spurscast with Paul quite a bit. It'd be nice to get everybody as guests on each other's podcasts, So we'll have to do that, on occasion here moving forward. That'll be fun.
Absolutely.
So for Noah Magaro-George, I'm Joe Garcia. Thank you for watching and listening to another episode of the Two Shots Podcast. And like we always say, spread the love, stop the hate, be kind. We're out. Peace.